Landlords in New York State whose tenant has held their home hostage for the last 7 months have created a survey to expose the truth about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have quite the interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of New York State. Now, as everyone knows, New York is one of the places where the eviction moratorium lasted a lot longer than in the rest of the country. And not only that, but they put in place tenant protections even that are still ongoing to this day that made it almost impossible to get tenants up out of these houses, okay? So landlords there are truly suffering, and their stories, they're not being told, okay? And the statistics, they lie. They don't show that, hey, a lot of landlords are having these issues. But one set of landlords, what they're doing is they created a survey. They wanted to expose the truth about what's really going on up there in New York with their ridiculous rental assistance program and all the bureaucracy involved in it, with tenants who are abusing the system so that they can't be evicted and get to stay somewhere for free, and about the landlords who are suffering through all of it, okay? And I really like that they're doing, at least creating this survey, because I want to see these stats myself. This is the stuff I have been talking about in videos for over a year now, okay? Landlords are not doing that well, okay? And there's a lot of them, especially the small ones, who are just drowning. If they haven't already lost their property, then they are on the verge of losing it. And they're not making things any better by passing more tenant protections. Here we are 2 years beyond the beginning of the pandemic, and they're trying to pass more protections, like, we need to make sure these tenants. No, the only thing you need to do is allow us to evict those tenants and get paying tenants into our properties. That's it, okay? I'm sick of these emergency rental assistance programs. I'm sick of these eviction moratoriums. I'm sick of these ridiculous tenant protections that do nothing other than make the landlord suffer, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? I know that this survey, it won't necessarily make anyone change, but at least it will expose the truth, and maybe that will help, okay? So do you really think that this survey that these landlords are proposing is helpful? And if it is, I'm grateful that they created it. And of course, I'm trying to expose bring more knowledge and information about what is going on in New York and all over the country in terms of these ridiculous laws and regulations and rules as well with my videos, okay? So I'll put a link up to the survey in the description underneath the video. So if you're a New York landlord, please complete the survey. Maybe it'll help, If it doesn't, well, at least you'll have somewhere to vent your frustrations, okay? But anyway, this article is coming from patch.com, and it says, Huntington couple creates Landlord Survey to fix New York's ERAP nightmare. The couple wrote a letter to the editor asking their fellow landlords to take their survey. So I'm going to get straight into it. I'm going to go straight down to the letter they wrote to the editor, because that's the good information that I want to get out there. New York State's poorly facilitated emergency rental assistance program, ERAP, has enabled our tenant to hold our home hostage for the last 7 months. The latest chapter in a nearly 2-year nightmare of missing rent, manipulation, violence, and crushing expenses, the Margolins wrote. I have sat through months of Suffolk County 3rd District landlord-tenant court hearings, listening to over 50 cases where at least half of them were mind-blowing. Is this really happening? Situations that have me declaring ERAP and landlord-tenant court is a criminal's playground created by New York State. And that is exactly what it is, okay? They've created conditions so that professional scammers, professional squatters, tenants who know that they can get away with it, they are taking advantage of a lot of these small landlords. Some big landlords are getting taken advantage of too, so don't think that I'm only talking about the people with a couple of properties. If you're a big landlord and you're getting screwed over, well, that doesn't help you any better than it helps the small landlord, okay? So simply put, we have to be able to end this stuff, because otherwise these scammers, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. We have a warrant through a court-ordered stipulation agreement that our tenant signed herself, agreeing to be evicted if she didn't comply. But the Suffolk County Sheriff can't execute it because of her open ERAP application. Like so many other landlords, I have tried absolutely everything I can think of since January to get the open ERAP application reviewed or expedited, to no avail. When I called my New York State Assemblyman, Steve Stern, and my New York State Senator, Jim Gagarin, for their help, I was shocked to find out that only a few of our fellow landlords contacted their offices with their experiences, asking for their assistance. So yeah, one of the rules that they created with the rental assistance program was that if you apply for rental assistance, well, that will stop the entire eviction process, regardless of how right it is, regardless of, the reasoning behind it. Even if you don't qualify for rental assistance, your eviction gets stopped. And because the bureaucracy is so bad up there in New York, they're not even getting through the applications. They're not processing them. So landlords are stuck in limbo. These landlords in particular have been sitting there for 6+ months, and they don't get any response from the bureaucracy at all. I mean, it's one of the worst, most bureaucratic governments in the entire country. So I'm not surprised. Okay, they're probably just, they have big stacks of papers, super high, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, we don't even look at them. So these landlords they're left in limbo, continuing to have to pay the bills, or they face losing their property, and they don't want that. Our New York State officials must be told how horrendous their ERAP program execution and blanket application eviction protections have been for all of us. The questions in our Landlord Survey are designed to gather the data and landlord experiences that are missing from the conversations in our New York State legislature and the media. So far, the survey responses reveal shocking statistics that 12.5% of landlords are currently homeless while still paying their mortgage, taxes, and utilities on their homes that are occupied by ERAP applicant tenants riding out the eviction protections. So yeah, these landlords can't even move back into their own homes, and they remain homeless so that their tenants have somewhere to live. Is that what they expected to happen? I mean, because, they're like, oh, we're going to prevent homelessness. Well, if the landlord themselves, and when you think of landlord, you're like, oh, well, you own dozens of properties. You might own one property, and your plan was, I'm going to move back into my own property because that's all I can afford right now. Well, when you say that we can't evict these tenants, that these tenants have to stay, the landlord now has nowhere to live. This is the case for a lot of small landlords. And it blows my mind that there were so few, no one thought that, hey, these situations would arise. Well, there are just tons of situations just like this. Two are unrelated U.S. military soldiers that rented their New York homes while deployed to fight overseas and returned to their country homeless. One slept in her car for a year. Two more are single mothers with infants and toddlers. One is living in her parents' garage as she waits for an ERAP decision so she can get her house back. 3 landlords have lost their rental properties to foreclosure, with at least 3 more stating they will share the same fate very soon. Over a third of respondents report that their credit scores have been negatively impacted from being a COVID landlord, caused by drained savings, going into credit card and loan debt to pay repairs and expenses, and many weren't able to pay their monthly commitments. So yeah, we see now, okay, here are the facts, okay? We have landlords who are homeless. We have landlords whose properties were taken through foreclosure, landlords who are facing foreclosure with nothing that they can do. We have landlords who, their credit was destroyed because they had to go into debt to keep that place in shape for a tenant who's not paying. And there's no exceptions for these people. There was no thought about these people. The state legislature, they didn't care. They didn't even think about them. And it's so frustrating hearing this account, but we have to bring this stuff to light. I've done the stories. I've talked about this stuff before. This is why, It's so important to get these stories out there because people don't even know what's happening. Seniors have lost everything as their homes are legally hijacked by New York State's ERAP facilitation. They're a region of the state where landlords can't even find a landlord-tenant attorney to represent them because they've given up and changed specialties. As of today, 50% of ERAP landlords will not rent their apartments again, even the ones who had good New York ERAP experiences. Think about what the New York rental market will look like in another 6 months with 30% less apartments available. Yeah, and they're absolutely right. As I've said, the more laws, the more rules, the more regulations, the more they try to punish landlords, the more hoops they make landlords jump through, you know what that does? That scares people out of the market. And they're like, oh, well, they'll just sell to another landlord. No, they won't. Okay? There's a lot of ways that you can get completely out of the rental business, make rentals disappear. And that's everything from, selling to owner occupants, converting to condos, converting to co-ops, okay? Maybe just completely just abandoning the place, who knows? But the truth of the matter is, a lot of these apartments, a lot of these units are just going to disappear, and there's going to be even more of a housing shortage than there already is, okay? And the affordable housing, it's the first to go. It's the first thing to go. So, that is the result of all of this bad legislation and the way they treated these landlords. I'm holding back on sharing additional information until we have more survey respondents, but I can stand confidently in this next one. 97.4% of ERAP landlords are not satisfied with New York State's facilitation of the ERAP program. One respondent was contacted by an ERAP caseworker or hotline supervisor out of 497 requests for contact submitted through the call center. I called the ERAP hotline last week to check the progress on our tenant's case and asked if I should bother submitting a 12th request for the caseworker or supervisor to contact me. She said, yeah, they don't call back. I asked her why New York State requires her to collect contact requests from callers when the staff is not mandated to call. I said, that must be very stressful for you, fielding screaming landlord and tenant callers all day long because you have to lie to them. I hope you're getting paid enough. She laughed uncomfortably, and so did I. It's my own tax dollars that are paying her to lie to me. Insert face slap and eye roll emojis here. Yep, it's your tax dollars paying for that. So landlords in New York, fill out these people's survey, okay? And I can't wait till they get more survey information. I'll do another story, another video on, the information that they release. But, this is the truth of what's happening to landlords up there.